If you saw our job description, it says at the top, the Overseas Initiative comes alongside Cuban Christians and their churches. We equip them, and this is so important, to stand and flourish on their own through very specific, gospel-centered, and sustainable support. I'll kind of unpack that in a minute, but when you're interviewing for this job, you got to know who we are, what we stand for, what our purpose is. And there are a lot of distinctives I'll share, but first and foremost, we're not just trying to fill a slot. This has to be a calling, and it has to be a mutual fit between our ministry and the person that feels called to work with us. I'll share a little bit about my personal calling. My wife and I went to Cuba, and one of the first times we were doing some door-to-door evangelism, this family was waving us over to their porch. Well, in the book of Acts, the Apostle Paul has a vision where there's a man from Macedonia, Europe basically, and he's saying, come share the gospel. We thought, oh my, in our country, people don't want to hear. In other countries, sometimes they want to hear because you got stuff. We didn't have stuff with us. We just had the gospel. They invited us in and said, please tell us about Jesus. That's when we started saying, okay, there's something special going on in Cuba. You have to feel called to this position. Number two, you're not going to understand who we are, our philosophy of ministry, if you don't get this. The Cuban churches have to be beacons in their own communities. I'll give you an example, and we got to lock in right here. I heard this man speak, Robert Lupton. I do a men's ministry called the Center for Executive Leadership. It's to businessmen. Well, he was a businessman, and he started doing work in the inner city of Atlanta. And he started realizing that a lot of times Christians were well-meaning in their efforts to help others, but ended up causing a lot of damage. The opening story, and one that he shared when he spoke to our men's group, he's in the inner city Atlanta. He sold his business. He and his wife moved down there. And at Christmas time, he said there weren't a lot of men in the homes, but he noticed the small percent of men that were in the homes. When the families in the suburbs came in to give Christmas gifts, those men kind of slipped out the back door. They disappeared, and he thought, what's up with that? And then the realization hit him. Even though these families meant well, he was pretty much emasculated in front of his own family. It was like, because you can't provide for your wife and children, we're going to come do it for you. Well, he started thinking there's got to be a healthier way to do ministry that's not toxic. And he's going to give solutions for that. Real quick, they set up a store through the local churches in the inner city. Those churches would allow people to come in and buy different gifts and things for their own children at greatly reduced prices or greatly reduced items. And so on Christmas morning, who was the hero? The mom and the dad, out of their own earnings, got to get nice things and give to their children. It's the joy of giving, the joy of the children to receive. That's when I went, oh my, we've been doing missions wrong. Kid you not. The very next day after hearing him speak, Jill and I, my wife, were leading a team down to Cuba, and I thought, we've got to redirect. We had all this stuff that we were going to take with us and give out. We thought, okay, why don't we do this? We've got bouncy balls, we've got frisbees, we've got clothing, we've got medicines. What if we give that to the churches? We say this belongs to you, it's your gift. Would you please hang on to it for 2 or 3 weeks? We're going to be far out of the country by then. And then on behalf of your congregation, you get to be the beacon in the community and share this with others. Well, let me tell you why that was important. We were doing a vacation Bible school. And again, we were going to give all this stuff out. But beforehand, the pastors told us this, because we were really kind of digging deep and actually listening to them, not just saying, hey, we're glad we can come here and minister to you. That can be kind of arrogant. As we're talking to them, they said that they would have kids come to youth group on Sunday afternoon for years. Well, one time an American team came into the vacation Bible school, and they had the bouncy balls, they had the crafts, they had the toys, the frisbees, and that was great and fun. But when the Americans left, the next week on Sunday afternoon, none of the kids were coming back to church. And the pastors were basically trying to find out, why are they not coming back? The point is the Cuban churches couldn't compete with the bouncy balls, the trinkets, and all this sort of stuff. And so they actually ended up decreasing their attendance in youth group. This is so important for us to learn. So what we did is we split up into teams with the Cubans. We had a wonderful time of Vacation Bible School. When it was all over, we got all the community together. We got the pastors and their spouses up front in the church, and very strongly wanted to state, we came down here to learn from your pastors because the gospel's exploding in Cuba and we're seeing how God is working down here. Now, if we had to pay money to come down here and learn from them, why would you not want to learn from them when they're right at your back door in your community? Do you see what I'm saying? We were putting the pastors and the churches up on a pedestal, if you will, or a podium, so they can be beacons in their own communities. Here's another thing. We sent a container of clothing and food and provision, a 40-foot container. We raised a lot of money to do that. We were so thankful. Guess who was on the ground? Guess how many Americans were on the ground when this was given out? 0. Our philosophy of ministry is we wanted the churches to give it out in the community. Do you see how healthy that is? Instead of me and others having a Facebook picture saying, hey, look at us, give all this stuff out. We're the beacons, we're the heroes. We're not even on the ground. So when thank you videos were sent out, or thank you notes, or over the phone or text, those thank yous went to those local churches from other Cubans. They did not come back to America. Just plain and simply, that is healthy, healthy, healthy. We're not cutting the legs out from underneath the very people we're trying to work with. A couple of distinctives that we have, and we can get further into this. We have something called microfinance. Look, when we were going down to Cuba, I kept thinking I would love to teach in seminaries. We would love to do evangelism and work with churches, all this sort of stuff. But again, we wanted to listen. We wanted to hear from the Cubans. How would you like us to participate with you in the gospel? They all kept saying microfinance. I'm like, that's not me. I can't stand anything with money, finance, keeping books, record keeping, writing checks. None of that. That's not me. I'll pray for y'all. Look for somebody else. They kept saying, we need help with microfinance. Kept on and kept on. Well, my full-time ministry, I volunteer for the Overseas Initiative, but my full-time ministry, I work with businessmen. Well, all of a sudden, businessmen started saying, George, we are interested in helping Cubans and working with them to start their own little small businesses on their own. Okay. My brother Keith went with me down to Cuba, and as we're meeting with these pastors and churches, he kept saying this was the second greatest day of his life. Begs the question, what was the first greatest day? The day he became a Christian. And he started seeing what's going on down there as well. And he was saying maybe we should form a separate nonprofit that helps these churches with microfinance, door-to-door evangelism, things like that. I'll explain this as quickly as I can. Oh, this is so crucial, and it's such a healthy distinctive. It's not even funny. Let's say that we're a church or an organization and we want to give $10,000 to a church down in Cuba. That's awesome. It's a tremendous gift, but that money is pretty much gone in a month or two. What if instead we set up a system and work with some leaders in the church where we took that same $10,000, we'll say we put it in a bucket, and we train and equip aspiring entrepreneurs, people that want to start a little business, a little bakery, a taxi service, somebody who wants to start doing construction. They don't have the money or the seed money to start that up. So what if out of that $10,000 bucket, the leadership in the church vetted and decided who they wanted to go through a curriculum that we've put together about biblical stewardship, how to start a small business? What if they determine who gets to apply and then who gets to pitch or propose their business to get some funds? It's basically Christian Shark Tank. Here's the coolest thing of all. That same $10,000, if a student goes through the curriculum, they have a little bakery shop. A woman actually wanted to do a little bakery shop. She asked for, let's say, $500 to start her little business. She then, over time, has a repayment schedule. She starts paying back that $500 into the bucket. Do you see what's happening? She's then paying forward another opportunity to other Cuban Christians. The average Cuban Christian right now makes about 30 American dollars. If you're a medical doctor, you get 35, okay? $35. A dozen eggs right now is about $20. A pair of tennis shoes is $30. Cuban Christians are not able to start little small businesses for the glory of God to support themselves, their own families, and their own ministries. That's what we are doing here. Do you see how empowering that is to help somebody who has tremendous gifts and talents to get started on a ministry? Well, all of a sudden, instead of you handing that woman $500, that's not healthy. Instead, we're saying, we're going to give this because we believe in you. And you start paying it back, which is going to pay it forward to another Cuban. That has just empowered this woman and given her a boost in the sense of accomplishment. That's what the ministry is all about, this with microfinance. How does that work? We have something called Phase 1, Phase 2. We work with seminaries down in Cuba. Phase 1 is 100% led by Cuban Christians. Biblical stewardship. A ton of information about money and resources. Then we have businessmen teach Phase 2. This is how you start a little business for the glory of God. This is a profit and loss statement. Here's how you plan for the future. What kind of contingencies do you make for the unexpected? All those sort of things. Once all that's done, the students then pitch their proposal. I'm going to share this too. The first wave of students that completed the curriculum and had an opportunity to pitch their proposal, we call them Cuban stewards, or kind of the overseers of that money. When it came time to do it, nobody stepped forward. We thought, wait, this is the opportunity of a lifetime. And nobody stepped forward. Why? It's because they have been so beaten down. They've been told by the communist government, you can never do anything on yourself. Stepping out on your own would be stupid. It would be useless. You don't have what it takes to succeed. They're going to laugh at you and they're going to mock you. So we had to get real creative to try and work with them, give biblical examples of somebody who makes a profit, a reasonable profit. Proverbs 31, a prosperous woman, she makes a profit and helps others. We also share that they're able to forward these opportunities to others. So it's just it's just pleasant. It's very pleasing to see how much of a difference this makes to empower other people. Part of that repayment schedule back to the bucket, guess what it does? It goes to the local churches. Do you see that? The vast majority of house churches in Cuba are getting all their support from Americans. That's fine, but during COVID, it was almost their end because that pipeline was cut off. We're trying not to do that. We want them to be self-sufficient. We really do, where they're able to live on their own and provide for their own churches and ministries. We want them to be able to sustain that in their own country, and then also for them to be able to send this opportunity out to other Christians and other churches. Man, it's just so fun to talk about all this. We have a Phase 1, Phase 2. One other quick point. Think about NBA basketball players in the past. They didn't have, maybe much money growing up, and all of a sudden you get millions of dollars. That never worked well. A tsunami is about to hit Cuba with free enterprise. The Bible talks about prayer 500 times, faith 500 times, but it talks about money and resources 2,350 times, meaning God knew this was going to be a big issue for us. If the Cuban churches and Christians aren't prepared in advance that resources can be used for good, but they can also be used for evil, then it's going to be a train wreck. We want to continue to see the churches thriving, spreading the gospel, sharing, and growing in a healthy manner. We do have trips with the twist. Part of what this ministry is, we want trips. We don't want this, it's not a business. This is a ministry. We want to do door-to-door evangelism in a healthy manner. We want to send young professional teams down there. We've had college teams, we've had men's teams, we've had couples go before so they can see and touch and hear and meet with the Cuban people. That way we have wonderful relationships with so many people down in Cuba. We need reminders who we are and whom we serve, and it's gospel, gospel, gospel first and foremost. We do 50-50 evangelism. In other words, it's a partnership with the other churches. And as we get to know and work with them, then that is going to help us with the whole microfinance, that it's not just a business proposal we're helping with, it's very holistic, that we're joining with them in all sorts of ministry, one part of which is the microfinance. This job, you're going to see it in the description. I keep saying fun. It's meant to be a happy ministry. This is enjoyable. This is like the opportunity of a lifetime. I get to volunteer and I have to pinch myself and say, this is the greatest thing ever. I can't believe I'm able to participate in a work where we see drastic conversions. I mean, radical conversions that have a lifeblood and a longevity to them. And it's unbelievable to be able to participate in this. So it's a very fun ministry. This is not a back office position by any means. We have lunch and learns, where again, I explain some of these distinctives. My brother Keith and our other board members want people to know there's something very unique about this ministry. So we have these lunch and learns. You would help put on a lunch and learn. We have fundraisers. The ultimate goal of the fundraiser is not just to raise a bunch of money. For instance, our junior board does pickleball. They got 50 or 60 young people to come out and play pickleball. I think the entrance fee was $5 a piece. But we got to tell them what God is doing in Cuba, to pray for us. We are starting to get some other junior board members from that. We had a little concert, a rock band that played for a fundraiser. And it was just to kind of get exposure things out there. The last thing with this ministry, this position, a missions coordinator, you are going to spend so much time with our Cuba team. I'm talking daily communication, correspondence, genuinely praying for each other. They want to hear from us. They want to see us on the ground. This position, we just need somebody who can spend some time on the ground in Cuba, where you're genuinely day to day getting to see the pastors, the churches, all the partners we have, and as much as anything, our Cuba team. I mean, Zoom is fine, a phone call is fine. Listen, you can fake caring, and I'm going to end with this. You can fake being concerned. You can fake all kinds of things. You know what you can't fake? You can't fake showing up. And this is an opportunity to do all the above, to actually show up as well. What we're going to ask you to do is submit a resume, which you've already done. And if we end up doing an interview, which I hope we do, we're going to ask you to look at our statement of faith, watch this video, and read this book, Toxic Charity. We will mail it to you. One quick note, we don't abide by everything in here. Short-term mission trips kind of get a bad rap in a few areas. We think they're very good. That's how I got involved in missions. Anybody on our board got involved through a short-term trip. However, we think there's a better, healthy way to do it. Cool. So please pray about it, do those things, and we look forward to meeting you, Lord willing, in person. Thank you.